Moments of Happiness at the World of Coca-Cola in Atlanta. Receives the AOA for Corporate Visitor Center Rehab on a limited budget. Please welcome from the World of Coca-Cola Creative Director Craig Liven, and from BRC Executive Creator Director and Vice President Christian Lachelle. Come on up, gentlemen.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. For those of you who are not familiar with the World of Coca-Cola, it's a 100,000 square foot attraction in the heart of downtown Atlanta. It's about a mile away from where Coca-Cola was first invented and first served in 1886. Last year, in 2015, we celebrated our 25th year as an Atlanta institution. The first World of Coca-Cola opened in 1990 in underground Atlanta, and the building here you see was opened in May 2007. Since we opened, we have had the honor of welcoming guests from all 50 states and over 75 countries every year. The World of Coca-Cola is not just a museum filled with artifacts and memorabilia. It is actually a highly immersive, interactive experience that invites guests to build new connections with one of the world's best-known brands. The average length of stay is 90 minutes to 2 hours, but I'm going to show you a video that will give you a tour of the World of Coca-Cola in 2 minutes.
You know who you are, brighter than the brightest star. Heaven to my fingertips, baby, you're the greatest I've ever kissed. There's nobody like you. There's nobody like you. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you move. Ask me again, then I'll say it to you. I'm so happy I've got you. Every day I discover there's nothing quite like you. You're unlike any other. You got the right curves, making every head turn. And everybody wants what you got. But there's only one you. Yeah, there's only one you. There's nobody like you. There's nobody like you. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you move. Ask me again, then I'll say it to you. There's nobody like you. There's nobody like you. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you move. Ask me again, then I'll say it to you.
So the World of Coca-Cola is essentially a nonlinear experience except for the entry sequence, which begins in the lobby and ends with the theater in which Moments of Happiness is shown. Guests begin their journey here in the lobby where they're welcomed with a cold Coca-Cola. They move to the next space, the loft, which is an artifact-rich environment, and greeted by one of our staff members, which we call ambassadors, who give them brief history, highlights of the history of Coca-Cola, and point out objects of interest in the room and introduce the film. And they move into the next area where they see the Moments of Happiness film, which is it's a 6.5 minute film. And at the end of this, the screen lifts up and the audience moves into the large central atrium space in the building. And from there, they're able to explore at their own pace and according to their own level of interest. So why did we do a new film? Well, since we opened in 2007, there actually have been 3 films represented here that have played in this very theater. As you can see, they were all animated films. The first one in the middle was Inside the Happiness Factory. And I guess the audience reaction to these films was always very mixed. We had people who loved the Inside the Happiness Factory, thought it was very cool, and others thought the characters were creepy, couldn't figure out what it had to do with Coke. So we said, well, maybe it's the script. So we did another version on the far left side of the screen that says, another version with the same characters, but it actually performed worse. So we put in the Polar Bears for one holiday season. The Polar Bears animated film was a beautiful film, really top-notch animation, and the audience reaction was still a little, meh. So we finally realized that, most of our audience is actually adults. Only 20% of our visitors are children under 12. And so even with this high quality animation, the average visitor was coming saying, why do I have to watch a cartoon before I go in and find out more about Coca-Cola? So we said, okay, it's probably time for a new brief, and which might sort of open up the doors. Maybe you should try something not animated. So I'm going to read a few lines specifically from the brief that went out to various agencies, and which is the one that BRC responded to and got the job. Connect with a broad audience and foster a feeling of unity and harmony through an engaging shared experience. Convey a spirit of optimism and uplifting refreshment. Spark the audience's imagination and set the tone for the rest of their visit. Reflect the universal nature of Coca-Cola and inspire a sense of being part of a large global community. Leverage the brand's personality to create something familiar yet surprising, and say, welcome, thanks for coming to spend part of your day with us.
So that was the brief, and we were happy to respond to that. We're big admirers of Craig and the team and everything that has happened at the World of Coca-Cola. And around that, we really wanted the big idea for us was really thinking about the word happiness, which was a key component of the campaign at the time. And it came down to one simple notion that, happiness is all around us if we just take a moment to sort of notice it. In our day in and day out, we're constantly bombarded with negative messages all the time. Some of them coming straight out of Atlanta and down the street. But, it was really important for us to sort of just catalyze the project around one idea, that if we find those moments in a day that make us happy, if we could share that and set the tone, that would sort of give an amazing journey to this project. Okay. So on the approach. So really, for that, where that starts from is really in the heart of the audience for us. We started to think about who that audience was. Coca-Cola does a lot of studying of who's actually coming to the world of Coke, who they're trying to reach, and looking at what their hopes and desires were and the things that they enjoyed. That started to give us a sense of working what we sort of say from the inside out and trying to find just the right sort of things that would relate to their lives and give them a smile and maybe a little bit of a tear along the way.
And actually, the idea of moments is very central to the brand of Coca-Cola. I'm going to read to you another quote. This is actually how I closed the creative brief. And it's a quote from our former president, Don Keogh, who passed away last year at the age of 90. Mr. Keogh said, "The story of Coca-Cola is a story of special moments, good times with friends and family, and special occasions with Coke as a natural and familiar part of the scene. Every person who pauses to enjoy a moment of refreshment with a Coca-Cola shares in an experience that millions of others have savored. All of those individual experiences combined have created a worldwide phenomenon and a truly global brand that plays its own small part on the world stage." So the idea of celebrating these special moments of happiness, and as Christian said, just stopping, you've parked your car, you've gotten in line, you got your ticket, you're stressed out, and then stop, look around you, look who you're with, enjoy this moment. That was really part of this goal. And one of the reasons that I said it was a linear experience because we saw this as an opportunity to really forge this relationship with the audience and also sort of hopefully rekindle the specialness among themselves and the people that they were with. Of course, the film itself is full of extraordinary moments because it needed to play on a big screen. This is not a YouTube video you're going to watch on your phone. So we had to have some spectacular visuals, some really heart-pounding, exciting moments, and some big emotional moments as well. And that was another thing, that the balancing out the everyday moments that we all should be looking around, and those extraordinary once-in-a-lifetime moments.
So that really got us thinking about, in our story session, starting to sort of unpack that and figure out how we're going to choreograph this show in a sequence of moments, but really thinking also, going all the way back from ticketing, looking at what was going to happen in the loft, how we would look at the script in the loft itself to sort of set this whole thing up. So it wasn't just we had to start right from where that ticket started all the way through, and thinking that as a sort of a story that was a sort of emotional arc and lift. And that got us to this unique sort of way that we started to look at the film. We kind of landed on this early, which was, let's start, 7 different storylines or 8 different storylines, and almost like a fuse, start all of them all at once, and then we're going to cut them together into this sort of strange act sequences, and then sort of raise it into this giant emotional climax where we sort of accelerate the number of smiles and moments of happiness we see, and sort of leave that as that sort of final moment at the end of the show where the screen's going to lift and you're literally going to go into the hub and be able to explore the world of Coca-Cola. So in order to find these moments, both everyday moments and really special moments and extraordinary moments, we started to map out, where could we potentially find these moments? Because we know that Coke is a global brand, so it couldn't just be a US-based sort of story. It needed to be kind of around the world. We started to think about different places where we could find these moments. We're going to talk about them in a little bit more detail. But some of the locations, we knew that there was a large population of for example, German visitors who come to the World of Coke. So we naturally wanted to find something that we could do in Germany. So we ended up finding a place in Austria to actually shoot. We also wanted to get that international vibe, so we looked at New Delhi and Jaipur, also looking at Latin America all the way down into Chile to do some of the filming, so that we could really get a wide diversity of different mix in these stories and these moments that we're going to create.
And the process for coming up with this location was really fun. It really started with, what are the moments that make us happy, make us smile, and everyone in Christian's office and some people in ours were all brainstorming together. And we also said, like I said, we want to broaden the appeal of this film. So we wanted different touch points for different ages. So no matter who you are, how old you are, where you're from, you're going to see something in this film, you went, oh, I relate to that. And of course, there are found moments like this that you just can't script, you can't really, recreate on screen. So the crew at BRC, was scouring the internet looking for things that made them smile, and then tracking down the owners of these clips on YouTube, and then licensing the ones we could for the film to add to it.
Right. And that was a big part of our approach to the film, was to make it feel as if it wasn't, a professional film crew filming this. It needed to feel handheld, it needed to feel authentic, and we did. We found and reached out to literally hundreds of different people when we found those moments in shots just like this. So we scoured the internet for found moments.
And we did have, like Christian said, a very sort of user-generated feel that sort of connected the audience to it, like this could actually be happening to me. And then, this light bulb went off. The Coca-Cola system, which is the Coca-Cola company and its worldwide bottlers, employs about 700,000 people around the world. So we decided to fill in, not for the main stories, we have the nine main stories that are interwoven, but when you get to the end, we wanted this cascade of images and all these moments of happiness with and without the product being part of it, all these different faces, this global diversity. So we had a contest and said, hey, and we set up an internet site and an internal employee contest and said, send us your video clip of your moment of happiness, and the grand prize winners could win a trip to Atlanta for the film premiere. So we were able to utilize the system, draw that to get a lot more contributions to the film.
And with that, we still had to go into production and get our main storylines. This is our DP. So Buddy Squires and Jared here. You know, Buddy is actually the DP for Ken Burns, does most of the documentary. So to take somebody who does really serious documentary work and then tell him that he has to forget everything he's ever learned about photography and actually filming and say throw that out the window and now we want it to be shaky on purpose was a bit of a trick, but we got there with him. And he's a real champion. So we storyboarded out the different adventures that we wanted to do, these moments that we were trying to create. And we knew that we're going to go through each one of them here in a second. But we started traditionally trying to find, and all these moments were inspired by things that we had in our lives and things that we heard from the audience as we did our research. So we wanted to keep them authentic, but we needed to get the right shot and just the right emotions, and we weren't going to find all of that online. So we were going to have to try to recreate some of these moments. So that led us to our shooting style. Most of the time we were shooting with a lot of different types of rigs. We had a whole variety of different cameras that we used at the various locations. And we also use a lot of, you know, secondary, third camera, fourth cameras. Here you can see just in this one shot, we've got 2 cameras on the helmets here. We've also got a camera out of a secondary plane, but we also have additional cameras actually on them. So, and we're going to have to find a way to bridge all that stuff together in a unique way.
And people on the beach when they landed.
Yeah, exactly. So quite a bit of different crews, and this is just kind of one of the shots that you'd see from that moment. So, and this is the crew up in Chile. So that, and also the other thing that we did, because we want that handheld style, although we were creating some of these moments, we also gave the crew and everyday people just cameras and let them film. So we would turn the filmmaking over to them in order to find these moments. So this is one of our crew here in
Cast.
Yeah, Cast. Yeah, sort of working. Well, that's Phil, and Phil working with her on that wonderful sort of shot. And she ran around with the handheld and got some great footage. So we went around the globe, and we really found these moments to be things that all of us wanted to have. So travel and adventure. You know, really this sort of sense of going places. You know, when you get out of college, you want to sort of, the world is sort of your oyster. You want to go travel and see these different places. We knew that was a really important moment that people celebrate, and it's one of the happiest moments in their lives. So that was something that was really important for us to go and find and capture.
Yeah. And in this case, it was 5 friends. We cast 5 people who already knew each other, and so they really were hiking up the glacier, and they really were, you know, going to the mountaintop, but they already knew each other and they were comfortable with each other, so that really just got us there faster to get into those moments of happiness.
Yeah, and our casting director really does a lot with coming out of sort of reality TV, so we were actually putting people into scenarios that they had. These are really 5 friends. They know each other. They had no idea where they were going to go until we actually told them what the brief was, and then we just let them go, and that really got us, you know, authentic things. Another one like that is Homecoming. This is a real homecoming with family, the Hunter family. We worked with both the U.S. military to find a soldier who was coming home from Afghanistan, and negotiated that. And he knew he was going to be coming home, but we had to let one member of the family know, his mom. She's not really good. She's never lied to her husband in all the years that she's lived with him. And he's a lawyer in Chicago, so that was even harder for her. Mm-hmm. But we revealed this homecoming at Chicago Stadium with the Chicago Blackhawks. And it was a moment, it became one of the, not only is it used in the Moments of Happiness film, and it's a real authentic moment. Family didn't know anything about this, but it also became one of the most viewed moments in Blackhawks TV history, too. And then we had things like the surprise party, where we really, you know, one of those great moments is when you have the celebration of family and relatives coming together around a birthday, especially with an older relative, you know, where you don't have that many more birthdays with them, but you always remember those moments. They're just really, you know, you have multi-generational families there together, and that was a moment that we really felt was important to capture.
And that was in Pasadena, and the lady whose birthday was being celebrated, the grandmother, she's actually a lawyer. She's not an actress.
And then we had an engagement that we did in New Mexico at the Balloon Festival. If anybody's ever been there, it's fantastic. But we knew that, that one of those other great moments of happiness you have is when you get down on your knee or you're on the receiving end of that, however it happens, but that moment in which you sort of, make that devotion and that moment where you ask somebody to marry you is something that we knew would be that people would just sort of really get pumped up about.
And the cameraman who was squeezed down in the basket along with the operator had an extra ring in his pocket in case in the excitement the ring went out of the balloons.
That is true. That is true. We also had that sort of teen love, We've all been in that place where, you're a young adult and you're excited about that first flutter and of sort of, finding that first person that's looking at you and wondering if they like you back, and sort of that sense of young romance. And that's just a wonderful moment that we have in our lives, and trying to capture that sort of young romance story. And also bucket list stories.
The bucket list is actually the skydiving story as well, and we shot that in Fiji. And I don't know how you found the 3 ladies that we took down, but we wanted a woman of a certain age, not a 20-something-year-old, but someone who would be crossing off this thing on our bucket list. Again, giving us that demographic spread. But we couldn't afford to put all our eggs in one basket, so we brought 3 women to Fiji and got them all to jump, and then had to pick the best one. Yeah. So we didn't want anybody chickening out in the plane, and then we've blown that.
It was a great moment, and they were truly scared out of their minds jumping out. And then, of course, the pregnancy announcement is another one of those moments where, you're a parent, and your kids come home and they tell you that there's this wonderful, that you're going to be a grandmother or grandfather, and also what that means also from a young family that's just getting started. Those are moments that really touch, and every culture in the world has that moment. Doesn't matter. We were looking for those things that no matter where you're from, there's a sense of unity in these moments that we looked at. And then the last one was an amazing feat, something that just could not possibly happen. It's that 1 in a billion shot, and we found a great moment there with that, which is these guys are up in basically in an apartment building, and they're launching these basketballs down, I think about 12 to 13 stories, trying to hit that, and they actually hit it. And literally in the theater, people stand up and just start clapping and sort of screaming when that moment happens.
And for any of you who have been to Diwali in India, I highly recommend it. You'll never forget it if you ever get a chance to do that. We had a family celebration there.
Yeah. So with that, we went into post-production, and taking all those things and, think about how many cameras we had at each location, the found footage, the competition footage, all of this stuff, and then really sitting down in the editing room and working through that in just every single layer you can imagine, pushing and pulling. And so there was a lot of stuff that hit the cutting room floor, but just finding just how to orchestrate just the right sort of sense of emotion and lift. Spend a lot of time doing that. And then, of course, the music. Music's key. I mean, that's what drives that happiness. And early on in our pitch, we had a song that we found. One of our editors and directors, Chris and Zach, had found an Imagine Dragons song on top of the world, and it just really worked. It made everybody feel good, and we said, "There's absolutely no way we're going to get Imagine Dragons." But we reached out to them, and the fact of the matter is we did. They hadn't spiked yet, so we could still negotiate with them, and they were happy to get on board. And we really worked with their music in order to sort of elevate that and sort of build the bridge and kind of build that lift. It had just the right feeling. So
yeah, in the premiere we had at the World of Coca-Cola for an internal audience, invited guests, the creative team for BRC, our contest winners. You can click through, Christian, go ahead and get to the film. The little excerpt.
Yeah, sure. And so we'll show you a little bit of the film.
So welcome to the Coca-Cola Theater, everyone. You made it, yay!
This experience is a perfect gateway to the world of Coca-Cola.
It really changed how I looked at the whole museum.
It's an adventure, 5 senses type of experience.
You got audible yays and woohoos with a lot of clapping and cheering.
Just makes you happy to be here. You just feel like you're a part of something bigger than you. I just want to say hi to my family from Afghanistan. Let you know that I love you. I miss you. And I'll see you soon.
Every single one of those moments, reuniting families, it's a marriage, a birthday. It's the true meaning of happiness.
You can kind of feel it. You can feel the emotions yourself. We just all teared up. We're like, oh my God.
Yeah, this is my second visit, so I was already prepared with my tissue.
It was kind of put a smile on my face.
It put you in such a happy mood. We're coming back again. Like, this is a must-see.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Heartfelt.
Amazing.
The perfect introduction to the rest of the world of Coca-Cola.
Ready? Here we go. Let's do it. We're about ready.
I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world. I've been waiting this long. Hold me down for a while. Take you out of my hand. You name it, the destiny.
So,
There you go.
so the audience reaction has been phenomenal. It's been just a raving success. The feedback that we get directly and what we get on social media, on our own channels, on TripAdvisor, has been really, really positive. We've been thrilled with the film. And I think part of the reason it's so successful is that it really defies cynicism. I mean, it's so authentic and real. It's not corporate, it's not overly commercial, it's not nostalgic. It really touches people's hearts right where they are when they come in. And it does a great job of setting them up for the rest of the visit, as they said in the film, and sparking their interest in learning more about our brand and our company and its values.
So just a couple of things to kind of think about on takeaways. You know, it's really about celebrating the heart of the audience. And if you look there first, I mean, I think it gives you a lot of clues on where you can go with something like this and doing something unexpected. It wasn't a big, we don't see a whole lot of product in the entire film. It's really about people. You know, and you've talked about this before, as context is critical.
Yeah, if we were doing a brief for a commercial or a YouTube video, it'd be very different. But the fact of where you are and how you see it, the brief was very not specific in terms of what we wanted the creative brief, but the context was very specific. The length is specific. It has to hold up to repeat visitation. It has to be a broad audience, all the things I mentioned earlier. And I think the big lesson here is that you'd be tempted to repurpose something because it exists, but it may not work the way you want to if you really take it out of context. That's my advice to everybody that wants to try to repurpose existing material.
Yeah. And the other thing is to do something that's unexpected. I mean, I think a lot of what we see in the response is that they weren't expecting that. A lot of people, we actually have letters that Craig has shared that they were just having a bad day. Standing in line at the aquarium, and then they came over here, they didn't want to go, and then all of a sudden, the film just was unexpected. They weren't expecting to have that moment at a brand home. They weren't expecting to even have a sense that on 6 minutes that would take them from smiles to a tear back to a big smile, and it uplifts their day. They literally write about it. So, so I think that try to do something that's a little unexpected.
I like to say, you know, people come in expecting us to sort of pat ourselves on the back, and instead we pat them on the back. Yeah. And we literally thank them for coming at the voiceover at the end of the film and welcome them.
Yeah. So we'll open up to Q&A.
So you're actually going to tell us all this and then not show us the video?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Come to Atlanta.
Yeah. We could talk to Imagine Dragons about that. Sorry. We would love to show you the film.
I'm curious about how long you think this film will last in your new iteration. If you had kind of a hopeful timeline of you've launched this, how long do you hope it stays fresh and with your audiences?
We've licensed the music for 5 years. I think it could probably live longer than that, but you know, given our track record with having to replace films every couple of years, we didn't want to go beyond 5 years. But I don't know. I think it'll be time to probably have a fresh look at things, you know, in a couple of years anyway.
Yeah, that's what we planned for.
Coca-Cola brand is an amazing brand, but it's only sugar bubble water. And I'm mystified and in awe of not only sustaining that brand, but taking it to the next level. And so how do you do that and relate it? So A, how do you find that common core that is more of a bigger thing, as you say? And then what are you trying to bring them to after the film that you see it? Not just I laughed, I cried, but you're preparing them for another experience. It's a pre-show. What is it that you were preparing them for to take them to the next level?
Well, a corporate attraction such as ours exists to serve our brand and our products. And one of our missions, when you come to the world of Coca-Cola, you come for that brand that's so familiar, so global. It's actually probably unparalleled in terms of consumer brands. Like Andy Warhol said, it was the most democratic of all brands because no amount of money can buy you a better Coke than anyone else is drinking. But having said that, we want you to leave knowing that we have a lot of other brands too. Thank you, Thea. And Disney. And we have a lot of different products that are going to work for you if you're avoiding sugar for whatever reason. We think there's a place for Coca-Cola in people's lives, but also we do believe we've always stood for something. We've always tried to operate sustainably. So we do want people to, and that's important to people. They need to know more about us, who we are as a corporate citizen, and not just a beverage maker. And that's part of why we exist. But we're about fun too. We want people to have fun and connect with each other.
You got this one, Greg. Didn't you guys just change your brand message to taste the feeling?
Yes.
So I think I see how it fits in, but I'm curious, what's the reaction? Marketing? How do you, like, it was a big deal that they're unifying it worldwide. Taste the feeling. There's going to be no other message. And you've got the older happiness message on this film.
Well, I don't think happiness is out of style. I think probably, hopefully.
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope not.
It's just not the slogan. But we definitely, I guess we don't want this to feel like a commercial. So we got to be careful. It's not going to become the, taste the feeling movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely more of a push to make it product-centric. So today we're doing the brief. We'd probably do something a little bit different.
Yeah. But there's still that sense of universal, once again, I mean, it's people coming together. And as long as you're sticking to that timeless theme, it's still, that context is there for the families and the people who are coming through there. So it really does help lift them up and set them up for the rest of the journey, whether it was product-driven or not. And you can do all the product you want, and you will see plenty of product at the World of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, after the film, you got a lot you can go delve into.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
thank
Thank you.
Craig and Christian.
Thank you.
Woo!